With the news, um, like I say, I've had this feeling for a while, pouring like $400 billion into these vast data centers for AI. It's not clear that we're achieving anything. It seems like just in training them more intelligently, the way the Chinese did for DeepSeek is probably the way to go. And more researchers are saying this. They don't really think you're going to achieve AGI, which is what they're promising, equal to a human. And there's another one here. Well, I was glad to see this. Now, more and more people that are respected in the AI industry are beginning to admit they are not going to achieve artificial general intelligence. A few people, like the head of OpenAI, continue to say, "Oh, it's right around the corner. We'll have it any day." But Anthropic CEO says it will have it in 2026 and it'll be smarter than a Nobel Prize winner. And however, Thomas Wolfe, Hugging Face's co-founder, an important guy in AI, said that's all garbage. You're out of your mind. It's not going to do that. And what he said, which I think is fair, is that Nobel Prize thinkers think of new things, and all AI does is copy old things. It can't come up with a new idea, which is one of the many possible criticisms here. Anyway, I'm glad to see some people sort of getting realistic about it.
I think we mentioned this already. AI is afflicted by this paradox that you have to create a complex model for doing simple things. So a robot that has to open a door. Very simple things that a child can do, and disregard the complex thing that can be done easily, like a square root.
And the thing that I notice most is that it doesn't understand anything it's saying. It doesn't know what the words mean. It doesn't know what material objects are or cause and effect or anything, so it can't actually have any ideas at all. All it does is create text that appears to come from humans by copying other text without understanding it.
Forgive me, sir.
Yeah.
When we learn physics,
Yeah.
We learn physics, the professor usually said, because you have to do a lot of exercises in order to get, good at solving problems in physics. It's not basically the same thing that we are doing with AI. AI is not repeating over and over the same thing in order to give a reliable result.
Well, no, because it's not learning, because it's not understanding anything. I mean, all it's doing is taking the data and fitting a curve through it. And it's predicting the next word in sequence with a statistical model of the previous word without understanding what any of it means. So it can create language that is good looking because it imitates other language. I mean, it's really not that different than Google. Google finds a page and shows you the page somebody wrote. It doesn't understand anything. That's the problem. I mean, I think it really has to, one of my friends, I think they're right, they say you really have to put it in a body and have it live in the world to find out there are objects and you pick them up, you move them. It needs to learn what reality is.
Well, I don't want to go off on a tangent too much, but there is a little book actually. It can be pertinent to this kind of discussion.
Yeah.
There is a book, is the memoir of this lady, PhD in neurology. She got a stroke.
Oh yeah.
She forgot everything.
Yeah.
Everything, even language. She had to relearn everything ex novo.
Yeah.
There is a passage in the book in which she said, I knew what the President of the United States was because I had learned the general category, but I didn't know what Bill Clinton was.
That's right. Yes.
So this means that learning is inductive. What the highlighting is inductive, which is basically induction.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the point is, it's throwing around the words like numbers, but it doesn't know what any of them mean.
So
it doesn't have any experience of the world, so it doesn't know that words are symbols from real objects and that they have real interactions. They're just numbers. It's just extrapolating numbers to other numbers. And that, I don't think you can call that intelligence. But I guess it's up to like a psychologist or something. Like I say, one of the main lessons here is we don't really understand what human intelligence is. Yeah, so it's kind of hard to rate.
Adaptation, simplified with adaptation.
Anyway, I thought this is pretty amazing. I never thought of this. These are GUIDs, which are 128-bit numbers, but you can encode shellcode in them. This is amazing because the GUID can be converted back to raw binary by, apparently by Windows tools. So you can inject a text file full of these numbers, and then you can use a Windows tool to turn them back into a binary, which can be malicious. It's just another way of encoding binary data like base64. I never knew that. So this is another way to sneak data in a format where your antivirus probably won't detect it.
What's the title of this article?
Yeah, GUID encoded shellcode. Yeah,
No, no.
yeah, a new technique. So Trump sent a bunch of people from America to El Salvador to basically go into like a torture camp without giving them an accusation of crime or a trial or anything, with no due process at all, without even putting out a list of who they are, so people can't even find out who they are. This is what happens in totalitarian countries. They knock on your door in the middle of the night, you disappear, nobody ever knows what happened to you, there's no trial, no defense, no crime you committed, and now we're doing that here. And a judge is trying to stop him. A judge already ordered, said this is completely illegal, you have to bring them back, and he didn't bring them back. He just sent them to El Salvador anyway. And now they're saying and then he's in court trying to defend this, but Trump is saying he had a declaration of a state of emergency, that we've been invaded by this gang, and that justifies this on wartime powers.
Yeah,
Which is,
yeah,
he's claiming that he has the wartime power due to an emergency to do this. And this is what he said the first time. He would declare martial law, and under martial law, he can just do things like that. No due process applies. So now he's trying to declare fentanyl a weapon of mass destruction. They say the purpose of this is to justify invading Canada and Mexico, which apparently he's serious about. I mean, he's been talking about taking over Canada right from his first day, and like everybody else, I said, this is crazy. He couldn't really do that, but he won't stop. It sounds like he really wants to do it. He really wants to invade Canada, which is because he's imitating Putin, and Putin invaded Ukraine, and so Trump is trying to do what Putin did, to add Canada to America, and he thinks he'll be a hero. And I think not. I hear little Republican town halls. As far as I can tell, 90% of Republicans hate what he's doing too. I don't think anybody supports this nonsense. This is not what they voted for. This is not what he campaigned on. He campaigned on lowering the price of groceries and kicking out dangerous criminal immigrants. And he's doing this crazy stuff, which nobody wants. Okay, let's see. I mean, the issue is LLM just taking existing data. That's one issue, yeah. Anyway, so this is more of his stage. We're going to see how far this goes. But certainly, everything Trump and Elon Musk has been doing is all completely illegal. And the only hope of actually having it survive in the courts would be to declare something like martial law, where you're allowed to temporarily bypass all the rules. But we're not at war with Venezuela. He claimed these people are Venezuelan gang members, and then he said, this wartime act gives me the right to deport them as a danger to the nation, but we're not at war with anybody, and in particular, we're not at war with Venezuela. So I question this, but anyway, that's what he's doing. And so this was interesting. So they put up a quantum microsatellite, and what this did was quantum key distribution, which is the type of quantum encryption that has been known and used for decades. You've been able to buy devices to do this for at least 10 years. And what it does is it sends single photons over a fiber optic cable from a sender to a receiver. And the point of a single photon is that it can only be measured once. And if you're old like I am, you remember they used to use a TV show called Mission Impossible, where they would send the guy a secret message, and as soon as he played the tape would burn up and be destroyed. So you could only play it once. And that's what photons are. If you send a single photon, you can put a bit of data in there, but you can only measure it once. When you measure it, it's destroyed. So you can tell if somebody is wiretapping you. If somebody in the middle measures it, it will destroy the information and it won't arrive intact. So what you do is you send a key, and then you send like a checksum, like an MD5 hash, and you check to see if the hash works. And if it works, then the data got there intact, and then you know that nobody else got it. Because if they had, they would have had to measure the photon and they would have destroyed it. So the key would be damaged. So this is a way to securely distribute a key from one end to the other of a fiber optic cable with apparently complete security, that you know that nobody else has it, without using mathematical encryption to do that. You're using the properties of physics to deliver that key, and therefore it's not going to be subject to mathematical attacks. That's the idea, and these systems exist. You can buy them. They've been deployed by various banks The last I heard, the maximum distance was something like 100 miles of fiber optics. But what these guys have done is use free space optics. They've sent these photons from a satellite to stations on the ground, and they claim they connected with multiple ground stations and successfully transmitted quantum encryption keys to them. So it's quantum key distribution. You deliver a key using quantum mechanics, using photons, and then you just encrypt mathematically. And you can keep delivering the key and mathematically refresh it as often as you want to, up to some bandwidth limit. And I think they claim they were able to send like a megabit of data to each one of these, which is pretty good. The commercial systems I know send really very small amount of data with single photons, but it's enough to have like an AES key that refreshes like every 10 seconds or something. And here, so that's what you get. And anyway, one guy already rebelled and said, oh, that's an outrageous claim, but it is not an outrageous claim to me. They can do it in fiber optics, so you should be able to do it in free space as well. There'll be some loss, but there's some loss in the fiber optics too. It's not unbelievable.
So, do you know anything about, I mean, there's this quantum computing now, but
Yeah.
there are also the I don't know if I should use computing as a word, perhaps it's more appropriate storage. Data storage in DNA.
There's storage in DNA, that's real, but that's not quantum. Now there's also quantum data storage, which is another thing, where they have something like light going on a ring or something.
Okay, but how is it possible to upload data on DNA?
Because we can build DNA now. Since we have CRISPR, and it's also how the COVID vaccine was made, we can now build DNA base by base. So you can just build a pattern into it that encodes your data. Yeah, that's important. Yeah, good. Yeah. All right, anyway, that's enough of the news.